This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and today we've booked a room at the Continental as we're checking out the weapons from the original John Wick.
Oh, there's that flick. Needless to say, the weapons handling in this is superb. I still prefer it over the later movies where he's clearly even more skilled. This just, for me, is a perfect blend of, what would the ultimate mob enforcer / hitman be like?
While also soothing some of the psychic damage caused by our recent April Fool's video. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's episode. But without further ado, I'll throw it over to Jonathan.
I could cleanse the palate with some proper John Wick. Got the t-shirt on as well. This chest. So I only recently learned. I was chatting with the guy from Hollywood Guns on YouTube because he was doing the H&K P30L John Wick custom model, which are two of which are in this case. I don't know if they ever plan to have him go akimbo because there are two of both pistols. I think that's just a backup thing. I can't ever see, as crazy as John Wick gets later, I can't ever see them intending to do the old Desperado thing. But we have two of those, and we have two Glock 26s, which we'll come back to. In terms of in-universe, obviously the idea is he's a retired hitman, and he has retired, so he's concreted it into the floor, so he isn't tempted to go doing more killings. Except he's back, as we know. Finger on the trigger there as he picks the weapon up. I remember noticing that the first time, thinking that doesn't look as professional as Keanu clearly is. Then again, when you're this good, maybe we can make an exception. Also, he is about to go and kill people, so there is that. Now, I remember thinking, at first, what's that? That's an unusual looking pistol. Very movie-like with that extended front. And that is a custom compensator that was designed and made for the film. And like a lot of John Wick fans, I think it's a bit of a shame that we never came back to this pistol. It sort of makes sense story-wise as to why he no longer has it. Needless to say, the weapons handling in this is superb. I still prefer it over the later movies where he's clearly even more skilled and more practiced. This just, for me, is a perfect blend of, what would the ultimate mob enforcer / hitman be like? And it's just, he could just as easily be the Punisher, that level of hyper real. He does martial arts, close-up work. It's like the stuff we saw from Equilibrium and the Matrix and stuff, turned up to 11, and then they turn it up to 2011. That wasn't deliberate in the sequels. But this is still my favorite, will always be my favorite. And I think the P30L with the compensator is somehow perfect for the film. It's questionable as to whether that's the ideal choice for someone like this. It's longer, a bit more harder to conceal. The H&K P30, generically, great choice. They went for the full size, and then they made it double full size with the, I believe, from remembering Hollywood Guns video on this correctly, a faux compensator originally. Don't think we ever see flash out the ports on the top. So I guess in universe, the idea is he wants the full length barrel and slide, because he's not doing red dots at this point. So he wants that for the maximum sight radius, to use his exceptional abilities to the maximum. Fine. And then he's extending I guess primarily what matters the most about the compensator in theory is he's keeping his muzzle flip to a minimum so he doesn't outpace the gun with his grip, trigger control, whatever else. If you are this almost superhero level of skilled when it comes to pistol craft, then maybe a compensator makes sense. Not the last time we see a comp on a gun in John Wick. Now, transition to the Glock 26. I think in 2015 when I saw this, I was perfectly happy with that. An obvious choice perhaps, but a reasonable one. Nice and compact, a little bit thick maybe, but a good backup option. If you had any reliability concerns over the HK, which I don't think in the scheme of things there are, then something as reliable as a Glock makes a good backup. It sort of also indicates he isn't about brand. He's not being sponsored. He chooses what he thinks is best. So he's got two different pistols from two different manufacturers. Given the amount of shooting he does, having two pistols on you does make sense. I don't think he's packing all four. in this scene. It would have been a bit too Matrix, I guess, if he was New York reloading every 5 seconds. And I've been wittering here, but one of the few John Wick firearms that we do have in the collection, because it is really very fashion conscious, cutting edge, even from 10 years ago, to the point where we don't have most of it. We do have several of the Glock 26. And I think his is a Gen 3. I've not checked. Big problem, and you can see it in the clip here, is he hasn't got the extended magazine base plate, which we do have, but I forgot to pick up, that gives you somewhere to put your pinky. A lot of leverage comes from the pinky finger that you're missing with this. But unlike the tiny Browning that we covered on our channel the other week, this at least gives you 2 fingers and a thumb, which is enough grip to control this thing. I think for me, the Glock 26 in film, I immediately think of John Wick and I think of Black Widow, the Marvel movies, who has 2 of these on her hip. That sort of cold, intent brutality, the Mozambique drill there to ensure that guy is definitely not going to be a problem. That draw is awesome. He's practiced that a hell of a lot. That's a good view of this compensator. So I think that for a lot of us who love this film, this is an iconic setup, but it is not fully integrated into the design, if that makes sense. Looking at this again more recently, I never realized that there's Picatinny rail on the bottom of the compensator. It doesn't line up. This profile view shows you very clearly that the height of the compensator is less than the combined height of the slide and the dust cover on the pistol. So they're at different heights. Not necessarily a problem. Bigger problem is hanging stuff off a compensator, which he doesn't do anyway. This is really for looks. It has become part of the look of modern tactical firearms, whether or not you're using it for anything. And John doesn't. And you can just about make out the fake ports on top of the compensator. There's something about the proportions here that is a wider trope of cinema at this point. Think Leon, the professional, with his Beretta with the compensator on the end, the Tomb Raider USPs, the extended Berettas in Equilibrium and Underworld. And basically any time a full-length Desert Eagle shows up, they've all got a similar kind of exaggerated barrel and slide and potentially compensator on the end as well. It's something to do with presence on camera. The old Dirty Harry problem. So they found in Dirty Harry that if they filmed from the front, the revolver did not look, this is not a revolver clearly, nor it's about a fraction of the size of a Model 29. It looked too short. You get a foreshortening effect, especially on a film camera. And so for some shots, they would swap out Dirty Harry's, Clint Eastwood's obviously, Model 29 for a longer barrel version, even than his normal 6-inch, I think it was, which is excessively long for a 1970s detective. Same applies here, but rather than change the length of the weapon, which you can't really do, and these days people would notice, they just go for something that is excessively long for what he's trying to do here. In retrospect, maybe they should have gone for some sort of compact but tall custom suppressor. I suspect there are a number of people who watched this who thought maybe that's what that was supposed to be. It's not, it's a compensator to keep the muzzle down. But yeah, what would make more sense for a Hitman is taking a bit of that sound signature off and flash. Because if anything, this is going to flash up worse and mean that some return fire might be a bit more accurate to wherever you happen to be as you're moving through. In this case, a dark nightclub. I think we can see from the flash there that we're just getting the typical somewhat exaggerated Hollywood muzzle flash, nothing out the top. And a lot of the muzzle flash in this, as Corridor have dealt with as well, is CGI'd because up to a certain distance, you can't use forward venting blank firing conversions. So they didn't use airsoft. There's a common misconception that they used airsoft. They might have used it for blocking shots or for stunt or something, but these close-up shots, these incredible, like the muzzle strikes, the contact shots, love that reload so much. It's just so good. Anyway, that is all done with, I believe they were UTM, which is a brand name, but blocked muzzle blank firing conversions for real pistols is what they're using here. So they are ejecting cases, but they have to CGI the muzzle flash. I'm fine with the muzzle flash that they did in this.
I think there are a few places where, I didn't notice when I actually originally watched the film, only just noticing it now, where you see that effect when they're having to choreograph such close quarters fighting. because the slide doesn't move either.
Ah, interesting. Where did you see that?
When he comes through the door, he blocks a guy with his left hand and shoots him in the stomach with his right. So you get a real close look at the weapon there. In other scenes, the slide is moving, and you can see cases being ejected.
Yeah, so that's the retention position. He shoots him in the gut. I'm sure you're right that the slide isn't moving. If they're actually firing UTM, it should. So the whole point of that is the barrel is blocked and all the back pressure in a reduced power blank drives the slide and it cycles normally. That's how it should work. So that either means that they didn't use it for that, or they had to go with a take where he was already out of ammo or something. Good spot, don't know what's going on there. It ought to always cycle. And even if it was airsoft, it should still cycle. But it isn't. I've just looked at it again.
You said you'd probably be using a rubber gun if you're hitting someone with it, but he reloads it. Couldn't you just CGI the magazine being flicked out?
You could, but then you see him I don't know. I think I've just watched it again, and there is a cut. Okay, my revised opinion on this. This is live off the cuff, but recorded. It does look like a solid lump of rubber there to me. Bearing in mind I'm on a small screen, not a great setup, but so at least in that case, I suspect they went with rubber because at one point there was a strike and they've cut that strike. That would be my guess. So that's why that doesn't cycle. Then again, I'm not convinced that it cycles in the other shots in that scene either. So there might be something else going on there.
John Wick is one of mine and Jonathan's favourite movies, so if you want to see us nerd out even harder over this film, you can check out the extended edition of this episode over on our Patreon. You can catch all of the main episodes right here on YouTube, but if you head to our Patreon, you can get access to longer, more in-depth, extended editions of these episodes, plus early access to next week's episode where we cover the whip-crackingly good weapons of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Each patron directly helps support the work we're doing here at EXP, but whether you join our Patreon, subscribe to us here on YouTube, I want to say thank you for supporting us, for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, all of that good stuff, and let's get back to the video.
So there we go. We've got Browning high power there. We have a ton of those. It's fairly generic, but it's of the character's era. He is, if not retired, then later in his hitmanning career, and he's got arguably, I mean, I wouldn't call it an obsolete pistol, but it's an older design for sure. You've only got 13 rounds in the magazine. It's heavy. It would make a lot more sense to have something like a Glock. Now, of all of the kind of Hollywood tropey cleaning my gun because I'm a badass and I need to illustrate that by cleaning my gun scenes that I've ever seen, this is probably the best. Does he really need to give his pistol another clean before he goes out and maybe uses it? No, not really. I'm sure it was already good to go. But people do have little rituals, and he doesn't do anything dumb with it. You know, he isn't there with a toothbrush scrubbing the slide or something. A lot of times an actor is told to do something and not given the full reason why, or you can always tell if they've been through a boot camp at TTI or anywhere else. You can tell because they've got a casual familiarity with firearms that you only get with time and hands-on. And I do get that from this.
You touched on the exact reason why I wanted to include this gun, because the first John Wick film especially does weapon casting very, very well. And that's something that you've brought up in the past. So, like you said, we've got the high power here, but then a little later...
Two high powers.
Two high powers. when one isn't quite powerful enough. Later... Miss Perkins is using a suppressed Walther P99, and Harry has a snub-nosed Colt Python. And you see these older characters and younger characters using older weapons and, you know, contemporarily. Younger, newer weapons. It wasn't something that I really appreciated until I came back to the films for this, that... yeah, they've done a tremendous job at casting the weapon to the character.
I think so. Again, you can always tell when there's no care or thought given, or the armourer just hasn't been properly involved in the process and they give what they anticipate will be a good choice and it doesn't really work. Don't think I have any major thoughts about this. I think they all make perfect sense or are justifiable. And, you know, it's what we see in reality. You know, I always loved in... Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that I think even beyond what would have been realistic, actually. Captain Holt keeps his old 38 snub nose on his hip, even though his detectives have all got Glocks or whatever. I suspect someone at the NYPD sort of said, oh, yeah, Captain kept his for longer than he should have or whatever.
I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but now is not the time to go all John Wick.
Who's that? A friend of yours?
I wish.
You do still sometimes see in maybe in more rural police departments in the US, you will still see the old big iron on the hip. What he's done with the second high power, I'm not sure, because again, we don't see him shooting 2 guns while jumping through the air. And we have the rifle there, so that's a takedown version of this. So we do have roughly the right Ruger Model 77 here. It's not that right because, well, clearly there's a scope missing, which I'll explain in a moment. And he has it's takedown, so quick detach, split it in half for compact carry, perfect for an assassination type setup. So this doesn't have that, and this is also a fairly nice wooden stock, whereas Willem Dafoe's character has got a less flashy polymer stock. But this is the barreled action at least. And actually, as I often do with a bit of stealth education on the collection here, this is an ex-British police rifle. I don't have any details right now on that. I'm hopefully going to go away and capture that information while the people that had it are very much still alive. That's why there's no scope. So often when police very kindly donate their former weapons to us, they are obliged to remove accessories if they're going to be of use on the next system. So an expensive quality bit of glass that would have been in these rings has been taken off and put on whatever they bought next. Is this the preferred sniper rifle of a hitman? I don't know. It's as valid as anything else. And it's more good weapon casting, I think. This is the sort of thing that hints at a personal preference for the brand or the model in particular. But it's not just a hunting rifle. I don't think he's gone for something that has a little tactical edge to it with the polymer stock. Now, Willem Dafoe in this film is closer to the age John Wick was supposed to be in the script. It was much more of a nobody vibe in the original script. Keanu was a good 10 years or more younger and more fit and able to do the gun fu stuff that we love so much. So I think it was the right choice. Marcus is our sort of stand-in for the original John Wick, if you like, in a way.
So that shot there, where he's perched over the railing, this is something that Chris pointed out to me, actually.
It's flipped. They flipped the shot round. Oh. It's suddenly turned into a left-handed bolt, which obviously it wasn't before.
Good catch. I did notice. Oh yes, he's got a case of the Ian McCollums going on. How did I never notice that?
I suspect that is just to make the geography of the shots make a bit more sense. They're quick enough shots that they hope no one would notice.
But we noticed. Oh, you noticed.
You noticed. This is, although I haven't seen this for about a good 5 years, I would say. So I'm going to try and go easy on myself. But I have seen this at least half a dozen times, and I've never noticed that. And I am normally, as you know, all over that kind of thing. I'm going to put that down to this being such an engaging scene and such a quick shot, as you say, that you don't notice. But yeah, good catch. Good bolt catch. No, that's atrocious.
I'm editing this one. That's staying in.
Please. Oh no. I need to be more careful.
Hey, John.
Good old P99. Do like it. Only fired it once, I think. It's a little static there. Doesn't move around very much. Equally hard to simulate recoil. You see actors do it sometimes. It doesn't, maybe with the exception of Dirty Harry, doesn't usually work that well. And if you do it with a semi-automatic or automatic weapon, it can jam. So they typically don't do it. We always think of John Wick 2 with the crazy pew-pew sound, silencers and no one noticing. But I don't think the sound is any worse than the sound in the first movie, which is very old school pew pew. So John has taken the P99. I think it's a first generation P99. It went through a few changes and then it morphed into the PPQ, and we have other pistols since. But the P99 for me is a classic for that very organic ergonomic grip that it had, which it got arguably better over time. But depending on your hands, if it fits, it's great. It's like a Olympic target pistol. And of course, the P99 is like iconic for Bond fans.
Thank you.
Of course, it's a movie, so hitting someone with the butt of a polymer frame pistol in the top of the head knocks them out harmlessly. Ah, the Keltec. KSG 12. I would normally have maybe criticised this as a bit implausible, but you know, as well as the heightened reality of the gang underworld high table stuff that John's involved with, well, they're in theory a bit of a retcon, I suspect, but they're all involved in the same world. So there are some slightly esoteric choices. Would you want that as a tactical shotgun in this world? Discuss. So this is the Desert Tech, is it not? Yeah, so a bolt-action bullpup precision rifle. I think it's a good choice. You know, it's compact by default. It's got a lot of power behind it. He doesn't need rapid fire because he's that good, even though he's engaging at distances where a semi-auto would be fine. And yet more variety. You know, we've got a lot of different makes and types of firearm in this movie. Even from the first, this scene made me raise an eyebrow. I haven't ever tried to plot it out in top down, but it struck me as really dangerous to all be shooting in a circle at somebody standing in the middle of a circle. That doesn't seem sensible. Even if you're all slightly offset so that your firing lines you haven't got a direct crossfire. Bullets can do slightly weird things sometimes, and if it deflects off at a slight angle, and yeah, cinematically it looks really cool, and you get that almost sort of priesthood vibe of these. It's one of the early hints that there's some kind of almost cultiness going on with this whole high table setup. But I think at this stage, most of that wasn't really thought of.
You realize I can't leave until you put the grenades back, right?
Oh, but you let John Wick have grenades.
It's Wick. Singular.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I swear Jonathan is secretly one of the Continental's gun sommeliers. Maybe that's something we'll dive into a little more in a future episode. As always, a huge shout out to all of our supporters over on our Patreon for helping make this project and all of these episodes happen. Links on how you can support the Royal Armouries will be in the description below, as will links to all of our social media pages and of course our Patreon. But once more, just wanted to say thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.